He started with hello on a summer afternoon. I lost myself and everybody else when I found you. Told you that I loved you, you weren't ready yet, but I had all the time you needed. I'll be here till the end.
Joe and I met at church. So our story kind of starts back in November of 2017. It was the first time I went to my city church.
I was serving on the production team and she was on the worship team.
Kind of just keeping to myself because I didn't really know a lot of people at the time, and I was really mission focused on winning Miss Nebraska at the time. So dating somebody was not on my radar at all. I was not looking for anybody. I was like staying in my lane. I remember the day that I wore a hat playing bass on worship team, which was the day that he says that he noticed me, because his whole family remembers the day that I wore a hat and played bass. It's just like a weird fact to remember. But ironically, at the same time in that church service, Joe's family was watching the set, and this is all story because I don't actually know that this happened because I didn't hear it, but it's been told to me that Papa Joe leaned over to Abby and was like, Joe needs to marry somebody like that, and pointed to me on stage. Which, when I heard that later on, again, I heard that like a year into us dating, I was like, why did nobody tell me this originally? But I think that's pretty cool that Papa Joe and Abby, you called it from the start.
The specific day, I remember I was driving in after the 5 o'clock service to help tear down when Megan, her sister, invited me over to the Swanson house to play games.
He comes over to my parents' house for game night, and I'm like all prepared. If I have like a spot next to me that's all open, everyone had already eaten, I like saved a plate, have no idea who this person is. And I answer the door, I'm like, hey, like, welcome to, I don't even know, welcome to the party, I guess. And he walks in, gets food, doesn't sit by me, passes the open seat, and then sits by Nye. And so I'm like, cool.
That was the first time I had ever hung out with her. I had never spoken to her. I wouldn't say I was nervous, but I could definitely tell she was eavesdropping on every conversation I was having.
I was just trying to figure him out because I didn't understand like his mind or the way that he was operating. And so we started texting from there, and I'm like, okay, I still can't figure this guy out. Normally I can get a read on people really quickly, and I just couldn't do that with him. We were serving again, and I more or less asked her, I was like, hey, when are we gonna have another game night? That was really fun. And that's how I tricked her into texting me and getting her phone number. Long story short, right after that is the first time we hung out, and her family accused me of lying during the game of faking it. Yeah, they're like, oh, Joe's the liar, and I was like, do it. Accuse me of lying, I dare you. They all thought it was hilarious, and when it turned out it wasn't me, they laughed even harder, and then I walked out of there a legend and one step closer to marrying Allie, so it's a good first step. I was like, hey, I would really love to go get a cup of coffee with you sometime. Just super chill, because at the time I was looking to try to find a potential spouse, and I didn't have any bad reactions to Allie, so I'm like, this is worth a shot. So we agreed to meet at a Starbucks, someplace neutral. Drove to Starbucks, and I noticed she was already there. She was early, which she's probably gonna say it was a power move, and I wasn't intimidated, but it definitely threw me for a loop. I did show up early, and I'm normally not early to anything, so that was a big deal for me. And of course, he had no way of knowing that. So he comes walking in, these huge jeans was the first thing that I noticed. I'm like, those pants are very large, but I'm still very interested.
So I walk in, say, hey, Allie, nice to see you again. Can I get you anything? So she's like, just give me some tea. I'm like, what kind of tea do you want? She's like, any tea. I'm like, okay. So I would get black and green tea. But one red flag was that she didn't take it with anything. She just drank it plain.
And we just sat there for like 4 or 5 hours, and it went by so fast. And then the only reason we left was because he had to go to work at 7. Otherwise, I feel like we would have been there the entire rest of the time. I remember leaving the coffee date being like, I still want to know more about this person, and I just still don't understand his mind, which was the biggest thing that attracts me to Joe, is just like the way he thinks, the way he sees the world is unlike anybody I've ever met. And it's just so fascinating to me. But at the time, I was still one-track mind of I'm competing for Miss Nebraska in literally like 3 weeks. Why is this falling into my life right now? I don't have time for this.
And we both agreed that let's just not put it on hold, but before we make a decision on whether or not we're going to be dating or committed to each other long term, let's see how that pans out.
Long story short, I competed for Miss Nebraska the first time and placed top 5, but didn't end up winning. Came back and I kind of was like, all right, what do I do with my life now? And that whole week, Joe was texting me and he was being very respectful of like, go after your dreams, I'll be supportive. But when I came back, it was like 48 hours later and he's like, so are we like dating or like what are we doing?
So it was less than 48 hours and I'm like, hey, so are we like dating now? Like, and she's like, just give me some time. So I'm like, right when it came out of my mouth, I'm like, you're such an idiot. We were just hanging out on the couch watching something and I asked her like, hey, what are you thinking? She's like, you remember that question you asked me on Monday? And I was like, oh dang dude, she's gonna dump me. And then she's like, yeah, I really think we should date. I was like, sweet. Like, and that sounded good for me because I had never had a girlfriend and Allie was my first girlfriend. So I'm shooting 1 for 1. I'm pretty pumped about that. I had a guttural instinct that I was gonna marry her right after that first date at Starbucks. And then about 2 or 3 months into dating her, I was like, I'm gonna marry this chick. Our relationship hinged on whether or not she would be Miss America. She competed for Miss Heartland 2018, won that. Competed for Miss Nebraska 2019, won that. And if you're a title holder, you can't be married. So the way I looked at it was I entered her life while she was pursuing this train and I'll ride it all the way to the end, whether that's Miss America or wherever that ends.
Before I competed for Miss Nebraska, I actually went to his younger sister Abby's graduation party and things were kind of happening fast. We were talking every day, but this was like 2 weeks into talking or something. He's like, hey, yeah, you wanna come to my sister's graduation party? For some reason I said yes, and I met the entire family. Talk about, I mean, it was kind of overwhelming, but I met like 150 people. Don't remember anybody's names. I mean, I do now. Hi, everybody watching this. I remember your names, but at the time I was just like, wow, he has a really passionate family. Everyone's kind of involved in everyone's life, and that was an amazing thing because my family is extremely close, and that's something that right off the bat I was like, yep, check.
Fast forward to December of 2019, we're in Connecticut for Miss America. If you ask anybody who was on the trip with me, Kelly and Eli and my family, I was the biggest Debbie Downer the entire trip because I was so nervous she was gonna win because I really wanted to marry her. I had gone ring shopping with her a couple times and I was absolutely no help. So I told her like, hey, why don't you just ask Megan to go with you because she knows you better than me in this area. So they went, she was able to find the ring, the cut and color and style that she wanted. I didn't tell Allie I had the ring because if I did, I feel like I would just given it to her. Like I wanted to try to make it a surprise. So my initial plan was to fake her out because everyone and their mom knew we were getting married. So I wanted to have the proposal as a surprise. So my plan was to do a bunch of fake proposals and then eventually do a real one.
We were going on a date to Block 16 downtown, and I remember in Joe's car he was like, just to let you know, I'm not proposing tonight. So just like, don't get your hopes up. I'm like, okay, it's fine. Like, I know you're in control of this. Like, you can do whatever you want.
We go there. I'm like dressed up for me. I mean, I'm not rocking a Raptor shirt, but I'm still balling out.
We go eat there. There was a time that he like left to go to the bathroom for a longer period of time, went outside or something, and I was like, is he gonna do it? Is he gonna not do it? And we ended up coming back, and he's just kind of nervous the whole time, and I'm like, I know you're thinking about it. I also know you have the ring, like, but I'm just trying to let him do his own thing.
My plan was not to propose to her, but for some reason I had the ring in my backpack.
After dinner, we went back to my house and I kind of wanted to unwind, so I'd thrown a pair of sweatpants and a t-shirt and I was just like grub status. And I remember thinking like, man, if he proposes right now, I'm gonna be really mad because I just took off like my nice outfit, my nice date outfit. And we just kept talking, and then he threw on John Mayer and we started slow dancing.
Gosh dang it, dude. I'm gonna propose to this chick. And the stupid ring was in my backpack. I was like, hey, like, you have two options here. You can, and if you ever do that to Allie, she gets really concerned and like bug eyed. She's like, what is he gonna say? So I'm like, hey, you can either kick me out of your house right now, or I'm gonna propose to you. And so she won't believe me. I'm like, all right, I'm going to the bathroom, and if your camera's not set up, I'm just gonna propose to you. So I go back and forth in my head. I'm like, well, at this point, it's forced. Like, I'm forcing myself to propose to her out of principle now. And I was like, nah, I can't like get her hopes up this high to not propose to her. So while she's setting up her camera, I get the ring and like throw it on the couch so she can't like feel it in my pocket or anything. And then we're dancing again. And I remember just telling her how like I love you so much, trying to get myself like in the mood to propose to her, until I eventually just nutted up and got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. And she said yes, fortunately.
Yeah, I think this whole year has just been so crazy that like we're both just so ready to get married. But I think the one thing I'm looking the most forward to is just like not having to say goodbye at night. I mean, I hear from a lot of married couples that they're like, yeah, that was like the number one best thing in the world, is just like being together all the time, getting to love this person 24/7.
I think what I'm looking forward to most about marrying Allie is just being with her all the time. The hardest thing at the end of the night right now is just saying goodbye.
I just can't wait to just spend a bunch of time. We're both quality time people, so we're like, cool. Get to spend time with you all the time. That's something I'm just really looking forward to.
What I love most about Allie is really all of Allie. Like, people have asked me that. People are like, oh, what do you like about her? What do you love about her since we started dating? And Allie is definitely scaldingly hot, but that is not like the only reason why I'm marrying her. It's definitely a reason, but it's a perk rather than the reason.
From his stupid dimples that he hates but I love, to his humor that literally makes my face hurt because I'm like right now, but I'm smiling so much. I tell him that all the time. And I just, like I've said earlier, but his mind is so wonderful. I tell Joe that he should be the creator of like a video game or a board game, or like write a book, because so many people would love to know what he has to say, what goes on his mind. He just sees the world differently than everybody else, and it's so attractive and it's so intriguing because it's just so different than anybody else. I love his heart, I love his family, and I just love everything about him.
I seriously just like, I can't put it into words. It's a guttural, instinctual love for her that I can't describe.